maps, 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 and more maps. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into another mapping video going over 32 maps that explain World War II, guys. Don't worry, I'm a World War II expert, so let's get right into this. And I thought it would be a good idea. The first map I'm going to show, World War II Eve. This is the day before World War II started, the exact territory each country owned. As you can see, this was the total European casualties from World War II, the deadliest conflict in history. The Soviet Union was just throwing manpower at Germany. Just 20 million people, 10% of their population. Germany, right under 7 million, 8% of their population. Poland just got crushed by both Germany and Russia, 17% of their population. How about only 1% for England? Could you imagine if England was actually land connected to Germany, how different the war would have been? Now, this is the Warsaw Pact history, but the reason I added this, just look at the crazy amount of land that the Soviet Union had right after World War II. They controlled, look at, they were far into Europe. That's farther than the Mongol Empire went into Europe. The most searched topic on the internet, World War I versus World War II. Not surprisingly, basically all of the major countries searching for World War II more than World War I. It is more well known. You're dealing with major, people, Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin, FDR. So this is the most land the Japanese Empire ever had in 1942. Japan had a really interesting empire. They controlled a bunch of airspace and a bunch of islands as well. So many islands. But yeah, you can see that red line, outlining the Pacific Ocean. That's all of the airspace that they controlled. And that was the height of their empire overall. You can see kind of mainland China they had some of, Korea. So this is a map of potential Axis plans had they won World War II. This is Africa and how it would have been divided up with much of the land going to the Italian Empire and obviously Greater Germany as well. This was a proposed division of Japan in 1946, I believe, how they would divide Japan after the Japanese had surrendered between the Soviet Union, United States, China, and the UK. These were all of the leaders in Europe in 1936, so right before World War II broke out. It is surprising. Germany had such it just feels like it considering we're used to World War II. Doesn't Germany's Germany as a country looks so small there, doesn't it? And the reason it says Adolf and not Hitler is because, I guess Instagram, this is from Instagram, and apparently they don't like if you have the term Hitler on a map, they ban it, which is just ridiculous. I guess they're just going to ban history, but so that's why Adolf is there. And then there's Stalin. So this is Germany's territory expansion. That's 1937, 1939 when World War II started. 1941, as you can see, Operation Barbarossa in full effect there. The height of their expansion in Nazi Germany was 1942. Just like the Japanese Empire, you can see Operation Barbarossa, and that really bright silverish color would be, I believe the term is under military administration. That's what it would be, because that war was being fought. And there you can see May 1944, they're losing a ton of land. And then May of 1945, Adolf Hitler, after he committed suicide, there are very small pockets of German defense. They ended up surrendering on May 10th, 1945. So this was the nuclear bomb that the United States dropped on Hiroshima. The overall extent of the fire, as you can see there, and kind of that circle is everything that was affected. The only time a nuke has ever been dropped. Pretty crazy stuff on a city, on an actual population center. This is another photo of Nazi Germany. This would be sometime around 1942. You can see off to the east, Operation Barbarossa. What's crazy is some of the Germans said they could see the city lights of Moscow. That's how far they got into Russia. And I always wondered what was going through German soldiers' minds as they just trounced over, So this is just kind of a funny mock of what World War II would look like if the Axis had won. This is not what it actually would be like. There's no way Japan could actually expanded to the United States. If we're being honest, even if Germany and Japan had won World War II, they would be severely depleted. And eventually they would rebuild up probably stronger because they would have more land, they would have more natural resources. But after World War II, it would be a massive, even if Germany had won World War II, a massive rebuild. A 2 or 3 decade long rebuild of their army, just based on how bloody World War II was. But it is just a funny picture. You can see Japan taking over California, taking over Alaska, and Germany controlling America, which would never happen. America is, at this point, virtually impossible to invade due to not only its location, but now at this point, due to just how strong the American military is. We know about the military budget the United States has. It's absolutely insane. But even if America did not have the strongest army, you've got the Pacific Ocean to your west, the Atlantic to your east. Good luck trying to invade that. It'd be extremely, extremely difficult. This is another mock of Germany if they had broken through the Battle of Stalingrad and won that, and also taken over Moscow. This is what the map you would be looking at. The USSR was reported, or at least rumored, that Stalin was going to move the capital of Russia if Moscow had been taken by the Germans. They would have moved it farther east, obviously, and they would have continued to fight. But this is just kind of a graph. If Germany had won the Battle of Stalingrad and the Battle of Moscow, what their territory overall would look like. This is results from the 1933 German election that brought Adolf Hitler into power. The NSDAP stands for National Socialist German Workers' Party, and as you can see, he won basically all of the overall states there, except for the 2 farthest to the. And then this is the overall Reichstag composite by, I believe, 1936 or 1938. I don't remember the exact year. They had full control. All 741 seats were controlled by NSDAP, which was enabled through, funny enough, the Enabling Act in 1933. That's how the Nazis got full control of the German government. This is a cool photo. I'm sorry it's so blurry, but I had to add it. So this, I believe, is every crashed plane by the Japanese Empire. No, they're not all kamikazes. I'm sure some of them are, but it's just every crashed aircraft and maybe ship. I'm not exactly sure if it's including ships or not. This is an interesting map that depicts 84% destruction of Warsaw. I'm guessing the red represents rubble, where the rubble is, but I believe this is from 1944 or 1945. Warsaw, which was controlled by the Soviet Union at the time, the overall destruction of it. Here is a European map of all the leaders' heads at the time. I'm guessing based on where the territories are at, this was probably 1936 or 1937, somewhere along that time frame. Here is a little bit more of the Japanese expansion. You can kind of see they first started 1931, 1938, they got bigger, and then 1942 was at the absolute most amount of land that they owned, almost some into Mongolia. This is a map of Europe's status. In 1942, you can see Barbarossa fully underway in the east against the Soviet Union. And then all of that gray, that darkish gray, you can see to the left of Germany under military administration. That's the land that they had won. You can see kind of, France under military administration after Germany had beaten France to gain that land. Now, this is an American Pacific offensive in November 1943. Just look at all those islands that the Japanese Empire controlled. Pretty crazy at the time. It's just so much little crap. This is a depiction of April 18th, 1945, the collapse of Germany. Just complete nightmare scenario for them. You've got from the west and from the east. This is why you can't fight a battle on 2 fronts. That's what Germany tried to do. It's impossible. So this is November 8th, 1942, pretty much the overall height of the Nazi Germany Empire. Look at the Soviet Union with the Nazi symbol right there. That's like in the top right. That's the only time you'll ever see that. But you can see the African campaign and the spots that Germany controlled compared to the United Kingdom, with America landing in Morocco and trying to take over that. This is another depiction if Germany, I'm guessing at this point, this is the depiction here is Germany wins the Battle of Moscow, they win Stalingrad, because there's no way they would completely eradicate the Soviet Union. This would not be the end of World War II. The thought process, to me at least, is if Pearl Harbor never happens, you've got Japan invading the Soviet Union from their east, and then Germany from the west, and then if Germany's able to win the Battle of Moscow and Stalingrad without losing, 1 million men, the collapse from the east and from the west with Germany and with Japan would completely eliminate the Soviet Union from existence. So this is one more full world map. If the Axis had won World War II, and it is not realistic, I will say, look at Russia. The Soviet Union, that's exactly what I was talking about in the last map, how it would be split. You'd have Germany coming from the west and Japan coming from the east, and they would split the Soviet Union in half between the two, but there's zero chance there would be any invasion of the United States. I'm telling you this right now. There's zero chance. The United States was barely involved in World War II. They wouldn't be getting invaded by Japan after Japan had just fought. It makes absolutely no sense, but this map has Japan taking over much of Western Canada, the west coast of the United States. How about, who is that? Is that the Empire of Italy taking over Mexico? That's all that it is. That's amazing. This is a crazy world map, man. This is a crazy one. Japan also completely taking over Australia, and then you've got Italy and Germany basically splitting Africa in half, with Antarctica there at the bottom being split in half between Germany and Japan. Also, Germany gets their hands on Greenland. How amazing is that? Germany gets their hands on Greenland in this map. The fraction of various countries' population that died in World War II in graph form. There you can see, just look at the bottom, the United States. I mean, when you don't get invaded, that's what happens. Nobody's invading the United States from the Atlantic Ocean or from the Pacific Ocean. It's just not happening. The United Kingdom, surprisingly low as well. Italy down there, they didn't have a huge population to begin with, and they had a terrible army. The Eastern Front was just a bloodbath. Poland, Ukraine, rest of Soviet Union, Lithuania on there, above Germany. Oh my goodness. And then there's Japan as well. And then this will be the last photo, a fitting way to end it. The Battle of Berlin, the last battle on the Eastern Front. This was phase April 16th through April 25th, 1945 at this point, with German forces getting completely surrounded by the Soviet Union, and also Polish forces as well. But guys, that's going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I am, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.